Welcome to this Roll for Crit review of adventure games from Cosmos. These are actually story-based games where you will be exploring a location, depending on the set you have, where there are actually multiple endings. So the choices you make, what you find, don't find, or do, will affect what ending you will actually read out.
We are talking about the first 2 games in the series. Presumably there will be more to come, but these are what's available now. It's Monochrome Inc. and The Dungeon. They both have very different themes. Dungeon is fantasy-based. Monochrome Inc. takes place in modern day, but essentially they share the same system, the same mechanics. So it's a co-op game for 1 to 4 players, and you'll be traveling around on different locations that have different numbers on these different cards. And as the game progresses, you're going to unlock more of these cards, you'll flip them over, reveal them, see what's there. The way it works is once you get to a location, you'll move somewhere on your turn, and you reference the number of that location. Now you can look that number up either in the book provided, or if you have a smartphone, you can look up the app, which will have audio recordings for all of these and have it read out loud to you, which is nice. And it will tell you some information. You may have to make a choice. You may end up discovering an item that you can use for something later on. The other thing that you can do besides exploring is try to combine items. So you can combine them with each other or with one of the locations themselves. You do that by putting the 2 numbers together, not adding them together, but for instance, in this case, if you wanted to hook up this rope ladder and this grappling hook, you would look up the entry for 10, 11. Or if you wanted to try to use the grappling hook to get somewhere, maybe out of this window, these are from 2 different games, but so as an example, you would look up 10 or 11, 801. And maybe there's an entry, maybe it tells you something happens, maybe nothing happens, but you keep progressing until eventually you complete whatever your current goal is. You'll have a card that tells you that, and you will play through 3 different chapters before you get to the end.
Now, all those are the same, but these 2 sets play a little differently. As this one is in medieval times, you start off locked up in a dungeon, and you will actually play as one of these 4 characters who have health, so you could actually get knocked out. Depending on the number of players you have, you will have more or less health. You, of course, both of them will have these decks to go through, but this one has a lot more dealing with the health and stuff and trying to heal up. While this one, on the other hand, is you are actually all pretty much like burglars. This is like an Ocean 11 kind of deal. You're a team that has been asked to try to steal this mystery drug from Monochrome Inc. There will be a building you can go up using an elevator, unlike going through different rooms there. And there's an alarm system for this one. So you're trying not to set off too many alarms. Each character will also come, instead of health, sort of a handicap for them. Each of the room numbers not only come with the number, but a symbol. Should your character have that handicap match that symbol, you actually will raise the alarm. So you have to sort of decide not only should you read this, but I shouldn't read this one because that's my handicap, so I should leave that to one of my teammates.
Right, so there's no time limit or anything like that, but you're really being restricted by, like we said, either your health or the alarm, which ultimately they'll amount to a point system at the end. But there's no game over in this. I think you will always find a way to get to an ending, but you just may not get the ending that you want. And again, your score might not be very good.
Another quick thing we should mention is between each of those chapters, you actually can save. They give you bags and tell you how to put it away. So you could play this over multiple sessions, not just one through sitting. We actually played this one together and did saving. The other one, we both played solo, and I did that in one full sitting. I think you did too.
Yeah, just went straight through it. They say that each one is about 90 minutes. Definitely, I think if you're playing with more people, it'll probably take longer just because you're discussing more. Whereas in a solo game, depending on your personality, I guess, you're making decisions probably a little quicker than a group would. But yeah, that's essentially the way it works. And I'm a big fan of puzzles. I'm a big fan of adventure games, like the classic PC adventure games, which I definitely think this takes a lot of influence from.
No, I definitely think when you first were talking about it, not off camera, you mentioned point and click, and I'm like, this definitely feels a lot more point and click compared to others, because it's sort of like, oh, I got the grappling hook. What could I combine this with?
Yeah.
The difference being that compared to a lot of the point and clicks I know, this game's a bit more punishing.
Well, it's certainly, there's kind of two schools of point and click. The early, like, Sierra made ones.
Right, maybe this is more.
You could die, you'd have to restart. LucasArts, which are the ones that I really like, really came along and said, we want to make it so that you can never die, there's no bad effects, you can do whatever you want and experiment. This is definitely, you can mess up, you can get hurt. Like I said, you'll always be able to get to the end, but stuff can punish you in different ways, which is definitely not my preferred
I think because most of the point clicks I know at this day and age are like the ones I remember either as a kid, which are like putt-putt, it's just like nothing can go wrong.
Now they're like Heavy Rain, where it just keeps, it's kind of like this, you just keep going, and but people can die or whatever, or like Telltale games. But so it's definitely geared towards my sensibilities. Like, this is a game I was really excited for. Also, of course, we've liked games, I think in the same genre, I wouldn't say Exit, ironically, from the same company, but almost closer to Unlock. But the big difference between this and those escape room games is there aren't really puzzles in the sense of like any kind of mathematic or trying to look at symbols. The puzzles are all really using items and how do you use them. I don't think it's like the escape room style.
There isn't a code wheel. Another mechanic that this doesn't have that you mentioned in Unlock and technically Exit is a timer. This one plays more like Escape Tales, where really it's more about choosing your actions, and in this case, it's not limited, but the actions you choose can be punishing.
Yeah, right. And I think that is the big difference, and I think that's why they have those systems in place, because there's no timer. You want to have some kind of a pressure. Yeah. But I think what I've come to realize about myself is that I don't want that. When it comes to a game like this, I'm perfectly happy just exploring the puzzles, and I don't really need a danger coming at me that I'm afraid I'm going to run out of choices. I like to be able to experiment and like read every single card. But I understand why they did that, because I think I see why some people would want that, but I don't know. For me, I'm like, okay. But it's kind of is like best of both worlds, because like I said, you could just ignore it. It doesn't really matter. It's only your score at the end of the game.
For me, I like a balance, because I remember in one of the unlocks, the timer also jumped down like 5 minutes left, or like something became very stressful. I didn't like that, because I'm the kind of guy who, playing a video game, goes to every corner to find this stuff.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And in this one, for the most part, without getting too spoilery yet, you could do that. I think there was like just enough pressure. I'm like, oh, I don't want to trigger the alarm, so I'm not going to do that, because this one I played the burglar who doesn't want to do the fingerprint stuff.
In this case, I think this is nice too, because because the team members specialize, it means it gives you a role.
By the way, there are a couple things in here, like if whoever discovered this is playing as John, read this entry of this, because you may be rewarded or stuff. So that you can sort of feel that in both, but this one plays it more with the weaknesses, and I like that a lot, because then there's just these work very well, I think, with a more multiplayer because of that. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, I can't do that one. Can you get to that? All right, I'll do that. Then you do the elevator then, or something like that. So there's a bit more teamwork in this,
as opposed to
some of those other Unlock and Mystery
being like totally free and just like, well, that guy's just good at all the puzzles, so he's going to do everything. Gives you a little something to do. Yeah, I like that too. By
the way, your inventories are also held by the one person. So let's say Alva, who has the grappling hook, is down there, but you want to use it up here. You either have to go down with her and trade it from her. There's no penalty trading; it's just an actions kind of deal, or she has to come up and do it.
Right.
So that's another thing you also have to balance, is your inventories.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot to like. I like the basic systems in it that do remind me a lot of Unlock, but Unlock also is a thing that I like that replicates those adventure games I like. But for some reason, I don't know. Well, part of it is, like you said, some of those things that we found very punishing sometimes they didn't seem fair, in my opinion. But if you maybe know that going in, you'll be very careful about what you're choosing.
My problem is that in each of these games, they're different, but there's like one thing that I wish I was told in advance, and in this one I was, because you play the solo first and you're like, let me just give you one tip.
Right.
Like, not very story specific, but just a general. And once you sort of know that, it's a lot, I thought it was a bit more enjoyable. Like, in this one, there's particularly one thing, like one number, that was, as far as I can tell, was only put in there to punish you because they thought maybe it was too easy.
It was like, seemed extremely uneven, very harsh.
Pretty much, we got to the final alarm. We lost all our alarms because of that. And the problem with that is, because it didn't, like, let you off after one full alarm set or something, it just became me going like, okay, I'll read here. I don't care about the punishment. I'm just going to read here, read this. And that it killed the suspense for me.
That's why I almost feel like with these games, it's so hard to strike that balance. I almost wish you would either go hard in one direction, like there's a time limit, that's it, or the other direction where you can do whatever you want. And I feel like this kind of tries to do both, and I think that's what frustrates me.
I actually think this, without that one thing, this would have done it well. There would have been a lot more... Because you can get more of these punishments, by the way. So, like, John can not only have trouble with malware, but also fingerprints. And that could really put a lot of pressure, because if both of you get a fingerprint, you're like, we have to do... Someone's got to do this. Mm-hmm. And that would have been fine, I think. But because this is... Their alarms, by the way, is generous. This goes up to 5, and I think it's, like, at least 3 resets before you're really at the end. So we took, like, in essence, a lot of health hits, so to speak. So it wasn't just like... Oh, you just happened to take a bad... It just felt unbelievably punishing.
It was bad. It was definitely really bad. This game, I didn't think it had anything nearly as... made me as upset as that.
No. But your hint was a small thing of just like... Be a little careful with your inventory.
Right. So I don't think that either of them, the stories in both are okay. Neither of them, in terms of like the characters and the actual plot, I think were anything to really write home about.
I liked this one a little bit more, even though that one thing sort of ruined it for me. But I think that's just because this feels like a fun mystery when that's just like very fantasy, nothing too out of the normal, I felt. In addition, I also want to say playing that solo versus this one, usually these games I'm like, I'm fine playing them solo, it is fun this way, it's just me solving all the puzzles. I really enjoyed this multiplayer more.
I think I like the solo more.
Interesting. To be fair, the thing that ruined this one, you triggered.
Yeah, and you basically were playing it solo.
Yeah, that was the problem. But like everything up to that, and I think that was the issue with me, and why it ruined it for me.
I like to be alone and just do things by myself and not listen to anyone else. This one reminded me so much of Shadowgate, like super classic game. I feel like it takes a lot from that, so I kind of like that for nostalgia reasons. I kind of like the way the rooms were laid out a little more too. This was cool with the elevator. That was an interesting idea.
Well, that's the other thing that's really fun. They felt very different. Like this one was more of, you placed them next to each other, so it felt like an expanding dungeon. This one was a building, so you got into this elevator.
Yeah.
There's another elevator that may go up or down.
It's cool what they did with just a similar system. Yeah, they managed to put in little things to separate them. Crits and misses for adventure games. Crits. True to its name, it replicates the feeling of playing a classic adventure game on the computer with a clever system that lets you combine items with each other or with locations. Both games that we played provide interesting narratives with unique themes and multiple endings that could catch your attention depending on what genre you like best.
Not only are the stories very different, but they actually have weird different quirks and mechanics, such as the health system versus the alarm system. These make them stand out from each other and make them worth playing back to back.
The games encourage cooperation in some cool ways, specifically giving your characters different roles and special abilities that give players a feeling that they're doing something unique and adding to the team.
Many of these mystery or puzzle-solving games, you really could be the same person. You don't have any unique abilities for each person. It's really, you could divide maybe note-taking or something. The fact that one person could be better at hacking or one person is the strong man really gives you your own role in the game. Misses. While the characters seem to have fun, unique roles, as we mentioned in our previous crit, story-wise, there really isn't much to them. The medieval one did have a flashback or two that sort of hints at what your character's about, but really they're still faceless within their own world.
The game nails the puzzle-solving feeling of old adventure games, but if what you liked was the humor, the character lines, the dialogue, you won't really find that to a great extent here.
While we enjoyed the different systems in the health or the alarm, the way that they sort of keep punishing or make sure that the score system isn't always perfect sometimes felt a little luck-based. Sometimes you just happen to search the wrong thing and could be very punishing.
As we mentioned, in Monochrome Inc., there was a particularly egregious case of this where my character was pretty much out of the game for half of it, and it really didn't feel fun to play as, and there wasn't anything that we could do about it for a long time.
We may have been harping a bit more on the Monochrome Inc. And part of that is, I think, the thing that locks you down, like Jonathan said, he actually couldn't do anything, is because we did a 2-player. If you're playing all 4, probably wouldn't just be as punching because it raised the alarm in essence every time it was his turn, and he couldn't do anything. So it just kept going up. The other thing is almost every other action in both of these would be like, you see a dark pit. Do you reach in? If you do, read this entry. So in essence, you had a choice. So usually you can be like, that's a trap. Mm-hmm. But this one did not have that. So that's why we're so angry about it, in essence. Honestly, if that one thing either had the choice so we could have sort of seen it coming and then blame ourselves a bit more, or just wasn't in there, I think we would have come out of this one with a much more positive experience. We still enjoyed it, I think, coming in, but that thing definitely, I think, really did put a damper on our game.
Yeah, it definitely did. For me, I think my biggest, the thing that really is making me feel more negative towards these is just that it should be such a home run for me, I think, because it's like exactly my kind of game, and I love this style of game, but for some reason, those like little things that bugged me, it didn't blow me away, which is a bummer. So I feel like if I'm in your camp, I'm your guy, why didn't this do it for me? That being said, I am looking forward to and definitely would want to play future entries and see how they continue to mess with these systems, because I think they did that in some cool ways. But I definitely hope that they change up a little bit of like make it less punishing. Certainly don't do anything like we were talking about again.
No. The only other time I've seen something similar to this, at least that comes to mind, and ironically, I don't know if it's irony, but it happened to you again, was Ghostbusters, when you pretty much the entire game was spent your actions to gain your actions back.
Yeah, the old Ghostbusters board game from Cryptozoic.
So if you have any game that locks someone in and they lose actions or turns, you better be able to end it really fast.
Yeah.
Like, that was one thing I really wish they oversaw. Like, I understand it helps raise the alarm, because it raised the alarm every other turn, in essence, in a 2-player game. In 4, it's probably not as bad when they tested it. But if it, like, once you do a full alarm, you were released from it without saying too much, that probably would have helped a lot more. But when it was just me hopping around desperately trying to find out what to do for you, we couldn't find it, because most of the things I was finding was help with the general story, not your thing. Like, there was a hint. We're going to be fully clear that we should have read something, and it definitely sort of hinted at, but still it was like not connected to that, and the fact it was choice, it just really felt like such a bummer.
There is a hint system inside the book. If you do get stuck, it will actually just basically, it's not really a hint, it actually just tells you what you can do with a certain card.
Well, no, yes and no, because what it'll do is, for example, we actually looked the hint for that. We were so desperate, and it said, find any of these cards. We didn't have any of those cards, and we're like, where? We don't know. It just
right.
It's not. It doesn't give full hints, but
now at the end of the day, these are both like $15 or $20 each. So similar pricing to the Exit series. So not too big of a price commitment if you're willing to jump in. But it should be said, while there are multiple endings, I found that I didn't really care enough to want to replay, because you probably see 80 to 90% of what's in the game on your first playthrough. But maybe if you're really interested in exploring and playing with different people, you might want to go back in there again.
I think there are a couple things here and there I would like to discover. And like I said, if they fix that one thing, I think this does feel like a fun point and click. I was like, and up until that moment, I was like having so much fun exploring. And if you have friends, this is a great one, because it could be like, all right, that's a door and it looks like it's heavy, but you're playing like the barbarian. You should be the one who should try to break it down. Or in this case, you're the hacker. You probably can get more hints from it, because there were things like, I played the robber, so when he looked at the safe, he got a little bit more from it, because he's like, oh, I know how safes work. Those patterns are worn out. This is this. Mm-hmm. So I think like it's really close, and it will be, I bet, if they fix all those things in your camp, the kind of game that you're excited about. It's just...
I hope so. Yeah.
Those little things.
I hope so. But definitely, if you're a fan of those kinds of games, you like escape room games in general, anything the ones we mentioned on the show, give it a shot. Like I said, it's cheap, so it doesn't hurt you too much to check it out. And let us know what you think about the game, what your experiences were in the comments section.
Try to, if you can do experiences, maybe mention spoiler beforehand.
Spoiler warning, all those comments. Thanks for watching. This was our review of adventure games. We'll see what happens when more come out in the future. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
This is Roll for Crit.
Hey, go ahead, like and subscribe, and support our Patreon for even more board game content.
Support us now to hear the audio expansion, where you can hear all the other nerdy things we've been up to.
we're so angry about it, in essence. And honestly, if that chair thing, I said it.